Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more fictional characters against each other in a battle of strength, or wits, or action figure lines that refuse to die, and see who would win. This week, Wolverine versus Predators. Now for the parade of horrific Dan accents.
Yay!
Yay! The headmaster's office at the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning is full to bursting today. An emergency meeting has been called, and almost a dozen different mutants have gathered, all faculty at the school. Vice Principal Beast, senior staff members Gambit, Rachel Gray, Rogue, and Iceman, junior staff members Cannonball, Chamber, Husk, Karma, and Frenzy, even Toad the janitor, and the strange green potato-shaped being called Dupe, who possesses the mysterious title of Adjunct Staff. Seated at the center of this gathering is the school's headmistress, Kitty Pryde. The only person obviously missing from this gathering is the headmaster himself, James Logan Howlett, better known as Wolverine. "He was definitely on last week's field trip to the Savage Land," says Chamber through heavily accented telepathy. "Saved Lawberman from a triceratops, he did. Well, he ain't here now, sugar," Rogue points out, arms crossed irritably. "He was supposed to be teaching zero-G combat to the second-year students in the danger room this morning. The class was stuck upside down on the ceiling until third period." "I have contacted my colleagues in the Avengers," comments Beast, hanging upside down from the ceiling himself. "They confirmed that our pugnacious principal is perplexingly not present. Similarly, no luck with Logan's other teams, the New Avengers, the Avengers Unity Squad, X-Force, Extreme Sanctions Executive, the New Fantastic Four, the Secret Defenders, Alpha Flight, Department H, Department K, Weapon X, or S.H.I.E.L.D., #BeastList. Kitty Pryde sighs more audibly than she intended to before turning to face one of the other X-Men in the room. "Rachel, can you scan for him? Maybe he's hopped off to Wakanda to see Storm, or maybe he went to Madripoor. I know he's had an eye on that place ever since Mystique consolidated her power there." The red-headed Rachel shakes her head. "Already tried. Wherever Logan is, it's not on Earth." Kitty stands and walks over to one of the wooden cabinets lining the walls of the office. She sifts through half-empty whiskey bottles and moth-eaten Edmonton Oilers jerseys before finding a smooth, bulbous metal helmet. "Try using this," she says. "It's the newest version of Cerebra, upgraded with Shi'ar technology. If Wolverine's within the nearest 3 galaxies, this will find him." Rachel takes and dons the helmet, closing her eyes. Several long seconds tick by before her eyes snap back open, glowing with a white light. "I found him. He's been kidnapped, taken to an alien world called Pandora. It's covered in thousands of miles of rainforest with towering waterfalls and floating mountains. The jungles are filled with all sorts of dangerous creatures, from weird hammerhead elephants to also weird horse lizards." "You be telling Gambit that Wolverine been taken by a horse lizard?"
Oh my god. Wow.
The Cajun card shark asks skeptically. "No, the creatures that took him are alien to that world as well," Rachel explains. "There are 3 of them. They're hunters. Predators, really. They seek out dangerous alien creatures to hunt on dangerous alien worlds. One of them controls a flying drone like a Falconer. One commands alien animals to track down his prey, and one of them is uncontrollable, a Berserker through and through. They're competing to see who can kill Wolverine, so they won't be working together, but they won't be interfering with each other either. That's against the rules of the hunt." Dupe looks at Iceman and lets out a string of apparently incomprehensible syllables. "I was thinking the same thing," Iceman agrees. "This is like that time I ended up fighting a bunch of ice guys for some polar bears. Ice. This is way worse though, Ice. I mean, can Logan possibly kill all 3 Predators so he can steal their ship and get back to Earth? Or will one of the Predators find him and immobilize him long enough to remove his adamantium skull and spinal column? Ice." Ice indeed, Bobby Drake. Ice indeed. I'm Dan Mulcairn, but this week you can refer to me as Judge X.
Oh my god.
No, I will not be doing that.
Can,
Judge
right? Operative
X.
word can.
Advocating for the Predators are Megan Bob.
"I'm a freak, but here among the doofuses, I'm normal. I like it here. I want to stay."
And Miles Schneiderman.
Fuck! All of you!
Was that a death cry in the back or something?
No, that was me being so excited.
Advocating for Wolverine are our returning special guest, Brad Bultman.
Go fuck yourself.
Wow, 2 very similar intros so far.
Yeah.
And Liz Logan.
Wow.
Liz, you remember when I told you about screaming directly into your microphone and, you know, all that sort of thing? We had that talk, I'm sure of it.
No!
I have to send you a picture of what my office floor looks like now.
To clarify, we are using the comics version of Wolverine in his prime, complete with healing factor and adamantium skeleton. The Predators we are using are from the 2010 film Predators, specifically the ones nicknamed the Falconer, the Tracker, and the Berserker. In order to determine who goes first this week, I tasked the advocates with hunting down a member of the Dredge race, a group of conquering aliens made of pure energy. Meg and Bob refused the task on moral and ickiness-related grounds, and Miles's loud complaining spooked the Dredge, who was able to stay well ahead of him. However, Brad employed his finely honed acting skills, pretending to be injured and helpless, and when the Dredge was lured from hiding to investigate, Liz leapt from the trees and took down the alien douchebag with only her teeth. So
Yay!
Obviously, Team Wolverine will be starting us off tonight.
Oh my god! That's a Titan AE reference!
It sure is, Liz!
I love that movie! Oh, good job, Dan. Good job.
Thank you. Team Wolverine, tell Cyclops I made him a convertible.
1 part adamantium, 1 part pure rage, and 1 part maple syrup, Wolverine is the nastiest furball you will ever have the misfortune to cough up. Because that usually means he stabs you from behind in the throat. Or like, up through your jaw from below. Or pretty much any place that can be poked, pierced, prodded, or punctured. Why are there so many synonyms for that start with P? Anyways. While Wolverine's hair may indicate party, his claws are nothing but business. Bad business. Well, good business for Weapon X, but bad for everyone else.
Look, I'll be the first to admit that Wolverine's skull and spinal cord would make a glorious gleaming trophy hanging on a Predator's wall, but it's never going to happen. Wolverine routinely goes up against foes like Lady Deathstrike, Sabretooth, Omega Red, Gorgon, Spider-Man, the Hand, Silver Samurai, Deadpool, Sentinels, and the Hulk, just to name a few. The Predators have fought Adrian Brody? I don't know, I guess they killed Topher Grace. Does that count as Venom? Anyway, James Howlett, a.k.a. Wolverine, the Runt, Furball, Wild Boy, Agent 10, Weapon X, Logan, Jean Valjean, is easily one of Canada's greatest exports, and that includes pop sensation Robin Sparkles and reasonably priced prescription drug coverage. The Runt is easily the toughest prey the Predators have ever gone up against, not to mention the smallest target. Now, you may think that Logan's 5'3" frame stands him up short against the Predators, but certainly not on Pandora.
So let's examine these predators that Wolverine is up against. The Berserker, the Falconer, and the Tracker. Think about their names for a moment. You know what they are besides names for these aliens in desperate need of a dentist? They are adjectives for Wolverine. Like the Berserker, Wolverine is merciless. Like the Falconer and Tracker, Wolverine tracks his enemies not with a stupid drone or hellhounds, but instead with his heightened senses, shortening the amount of time enemy movements take to reach him instead of going through some stupid second source first. Not to mention, those heightened senses make it nearly impossible for anyone to hide from him. Sorry, Predators, but your cloaking device, which works fairly well against normal humans, won't stand a chance against Wolverine with his sense of smell that's good for many, many miles. Like the Predators, Wolverine is a hunter, an unstoppable brute of an assassin meant to take out superhero, mutant, whatever liabilities. Except unlike the Predators, Wolverine was engineered to be the perfect hunter. While the Predators treat hunting as kind of a fun sport that happens to be part of their culture and must rely on their equipment to succeed, Wolverine lives and breathes hunting, being on the run, going up against horrific enemies, and winning. Frankly, the Predators don't have what it takes to ever finish a fight. They'd be happy to kill their prey while being killed in order to fulfill their restrictive code of honor. Except, what happens when you have an enemy that after you throw everything you've got at them, knowing full well you'll die too, they happen to get back up, heal, and walk away, leaving you to rot in the dust? Yeah, Wolverine tends to do that a lot. Enemies constantly underestimate him based on his stature and general hairiness, even when they know about his claws, his healing factor, or his mutant senses. Enemies literally based on him, hello, Lady Deathstrike, X-23, and random Wolverine genetic copycats, always underestimate him. So if there's any enemy in the world incredibly guilty of underestimation, it's any Predator ever, as evidenced in any Predator movie ever. There's a reason why Predators love hunting regular puny humans.
But there aren't any puny humans on Pandora. Pandora is humanity's one-stop shop for that sweet, sweet unobtainium. Miles, if you think you hated Pandora before, get ready to double down. In the game of Sentinels of the Multiverse, there are 3 deck types: the hero deck, the villain deck, and the environment deck. This environment is greatly in Wolverine's favor. Don't get me wrong, Pandora has a ton of excellent game to choose from. The king-sized and mostly hexapodal indigenous fauna here are prime hunting. We got hexapedes, hammerhead titanotheres, the nectar-drinking dire horses, or as Dan likes to call them, horse lizards, viper wolves, mountain banshees, thanators, the giant leonopteryx, and so many more. The planet is like a predator buffet. The problem is that everything on the planet is freaking huge. See, Pandora has less gravity than the Earth, and the creatures all have carbon fiber skeletons that allow them to grow to massive proportions. The Na'vi are about 10 feet tall, and are easily among the smallest of the species here. Wolverine will easily be able to hide among these larger and more tempting targets. The native species are also highly aggressive. The predators are going to be constantly distracted and interrupted in their hunt by rampaging animals and bioluminescent plants. By the way, bioluminescence is just about the worst lighting condition for a cloaking device. The constantly changing hues and vibrant colors make it extremely difficult to camouflage. As we said before, Wolverine has crazy heightened sight, hearing, and smell. His hearing is so good he can tell when someone is lying because of a change in heart rhythm. Predators, on the other hand, are almost entirely reliant on their inferior infrared vision. Predator can't hear or smell Dutch when he's covered in mud like 2 feet away from them. Their vision will be thrown off by the myriad of animals larger than their target, making it easy for Wolverine to get the drop on them. The symbiotic vegetation is based on mycorrhizal fungus that works like a vast neural network for the planet, responding aggressively to outsiders and disruptions to the ecosystem. Like, I don't know, the presence of an alien predator.
Let's get into the fight. If the Predators were locked in close quarters combat with Wolverine, Wolverine would undoubtedly come out on top. His 6 individual blades, along with his small size, would allow him to punch so many holes so fast into whatever Predator decided to get close, which, as we see multiple times, they love to do. For example, Hanzo, with a katana, fought the Falconer who was using his wrist blades. With a single blade! A single blade! Hanzo was able to strike the Falconer multiple times, and in retaliation, the Falconer was only able to slash Hanzo once across the back. Ultimately, Hanzo was able to kill the Falconer, but was sliced up in the process. You think one slash across the back and a chest wound is gonna stop Wolverine? Let us not forget that in Wolverine Goes to Hell, issue 2, Wolverine is literally fighting and climbing his way out of hell while being shown in numerous panels being impaled by 2, sometimes 3 swords just fucking sticking out of him while he's fighting legions of demons, Sabretooth and the Devil himself. And that was when the Devil wielded the Soul Stealer, a sword where no healing could fix any wounds it inflicted. The amount of care Wolverine needed to put into that fight to win shows that when he needs to be careful, he can be. Unlike, say, the Berserker, who is so arrogant and egotistical that when seeing a small 5-foot human compared to his 7'8" frame, would laugh and come at our Canadian wonder with nothing but his big alien hands. In Adamantium Men, Wolverine essentially fought against the closest thing humans could ever come to being predators. Wolverine was able to track down the base inhabited by engineered humans with superhuman senses and tracking equipment, excited energy blades not dissimilar to plasma in the same style of Wolverine's own claws, and powerful firearms. In issue 2 of Adamantium Men, one page shows him versus 11 of these assholes. And you know what he does? Beats a tactical retreat, and then in issue number 3, takes them down one by one in a jungle environment guerrilla tactic style. You know where this would come in extremely handy? Hey, Pandora! Woo! Wolverine has experience fighting in just about every environment, including jungles and forests. For a lot of Origins and Enemy of the State, we see Wolverine quickly traversing heavy foliage environments, immersing himself in the wildlife, and using that aforementioned immersion to adapt to the new environment by blending in with said wildlife. The Predators won't be able to keep track of whether or not they're following Wolverine or say a viper wolf pack. Say what you will about Wolverine being a brute, but he's a smart brute who knows how to use an environment to his advantage, whether it be through hit-and-run tactics or knowing he can withstand damage that his enemies can't. The Predators don't have this ability and are incredibly limited in the tools they can use to take out their enemies. It's either plasmacaster, wristblade, hellhound, or mano-a-mano. Even though Wolverine is only armed with his claws and his cigar, he shows far more creative offensive capability. I mean, the one time the 3 super predators try to set a trap for normal humans, the humans don't even fall for it. Why would a mutant like Wolverine, who's fought nearly every mutant or superhero under the sun at some point, lived for multiple lifetimes, and been exposed to every trick, trap, and weapon through multiple decades, be stupid enough to fall for a predator trap? He wouldn't. He especially wouldn't if 30-something-year-old humans who live in a normal world could see through a predator trap. Not to mention, an average predator perception roll is usually a critical failure. How many times must we watch a normal human able to sneak up on a predator? You really think they'll be able to tell if a seasoned hunter like Wolverine is sneaking up behind him? A guy who legit needs to make no noise to kill someone? A guy who we see constantly infiltrating bases, sneaking and snicking people? Please. Which ultimately brings us to the damage that Wolverine can survive through. The main weapons our predators will be using are plasmacasters, wrist blades, and hellhounds. As previously mentioned, being pierced with wrist blades would mean absolutely nothing to Wolverine. For Pete's sake, every time his own damn claws come through his wrist, he just deals with it. Not to mention, he just has more claws than each predator. And then the plasmacasters. They blow holes through bodies. Cool, awesome. Except if a plasmacaster shot were even able to hit Wolverine, explode, apparently grievously wound him, and then lead to Wolverine healing and just standing back up, what would a predator do? Oh, deem him a worthy opponent and get rid of the plasmacaster. Besides being slow to aim, we only ever see predators using them on mostly stationary targets. We know that Wolverine can move extremely fast, jumping to incredible heights and running as fast as a wolf pack, as seen in Origins. Not to mention, predators must stand still to effectively use this weapon. Time that Wolverine will undoubtedly capitalize on. In any case, things will never progress to that point. Wolverine will not allow himself to be hit. If Wolverine can sense Cyclops' optic blasts before they hit him and dodge out of the way, you better bet he can either see the targeting triangle being formed and the charge up of plasma material. In Dangerous Games Annual Number 1, Wolverine was dropped into a vat of molten steel, melted his organs Terminator style, and then got out and walked away. How on Pandora would a single plasma cannon shot do more damage than that? Once he even doused himself in gasoline and set himself and everything around him on fire like a human bomb. This isn't even touching on the damage he's taken from things or beings that don't resemble a predator. Sure, all this shit sounds like it totally sucked for Wolverine, but the nice thing about his mutant healing factor is that every single injury Wolverine has had thus far has made him stronger. His healing factor adapts and learns from every injury Wolverine receives, becoming faster and better at healing similar wounds. So taking into account every injury or bout of damage Wolverine has sustained has strengthened his endurance and efficacy of his healing. There really is no way that the predators can throw out something stronger or more deadly than when Wolverine had his own adamantium skeleton ripped from his bones. If Arnold can stay silent while being showered from shrapnel, sparks, residue, or whatever from one of these plasmacasters, you bet Wolverine won't give a fuck.
So basically, the Predators have zero chance of finding Wolverine before he disarms them. And I mean permanently disarms them, like cuts their arms off. But even if they did track him down, he could just fly away. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention Wolverine can fly? Because on Pandora, he totally can. Pandora has strong magnetic fields and giant floating mountains, which are able to float because they are filled with the superconductive unobtainium. Adamantium is ferromagnetic, which also makes it superconductive, thus allowing Wolverine to float with his skeleton. So yeah, good luck catching this flying furball.
Frankly, guys, the Predators are better adapted for hair fucking than taking down Wolverine in the wilds of Pandora.
Well, I very much enjoyed the self-fastfall special technique that Wolverine's trying out on Pandora. Nicely done, Team Wolverine. You truly are the best there is at what you do, even if what you do is pure bullshit. But now it is time for your opponents to give their opening arguments. Team Predators, get to the chopper.
In the quest to be Pandora's next top decapitator, we don't have just one super predator. We have 3. Each of them brings their own special something to the table. First, a look at their basic skills. All of our strapping super preds weigh in about 330 pounds and stand around 7 feet tall. It's pure muscle, by the way. They don't have cool vintage motorcycles to ride around on. Everything is walking, running, climbing, lurking, tracking, and hunting with these boys, so you know everything under their armor is tight. Additionally, they have cloaking that distorts light around them, helping them to blend into their environment, and it's perfectly suited to jungle hunting. When still, the film shows that they're damn near impossible to sense, even for highly trained killers, operatives, and soldiers. They've also got stylish biomasks that allow them to breathe in every alien environment. The super predators have bladed weapons for close combat, plasmacasters that operate Gatling gun style, firing rapid rounds, laser sights, a handy zoom function for checking out stuff without having to be up in it, and scanning abilities so they can find prey by heat signature. Tracker, the one with biomask tusks, has hounds to flush out Wolverine without any risk to himself. The hounds are inconsistently difficult to kill, which will be distracting as hell. Will a hound go down with a single swipe? Or will Wolverine have to get down on the jungle floor and wrestle with it? No one knows. Tracker shows tracking proficiency even without his hounds, following the pack of horrible assholes to Nolan's crazy hole, breaking in and then plasma-castering Nolan into a red mist with a single bolt. I admit, Wolverine's head may take a few blasts to detach, but that's what the wrist blade is for. You spear him in place like an unruly cut of steak, while you just plasma away at the ligaments and muscles holding his neck to his head. The plasmacaster melts through all tissues, so while it will do 0 damage to Wolverine's skeleton, it's gonna take the vital parts that actually hold that skeleton together and turn them into soup. Falconer has a sweet space tech falcon drone. Let me repeat that. A spy falcon that just flies around at his bidding to scan for heat signatures and report back. Falconer can find Wolverine by air surveillance if Wolverine tries to get off the ground and into some trees or skyrocks. Falconer is shown using blades in combat against Hanzo, so he has experience with blade users. Also, in case you had not noticed, his biomask is sort of like Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, with a similar hand blade, so he's thought his look through a lot and is dressing the part. Good for him.
Good for him.
He's a winner in our hearts and our minds. Berserker, the most experienced hunter of the three, is a tank. He is not only the one with the coolest biomask. He's got the lower jaw of an alien from Aliens on it, and he didn't buy that at Intergalactic Walmart. He killed it himself. He gets stabbed by Stans, and rather than fight him, just rips his head and spine from his body. Then he fights the classic Predator, gets wounded a bit more, gets blown up by a bunch of grenades at point-blank range, hit in the noggin with a wrench, shot with a sniper rifle, then axed, and still alive enough that Royce has to pretty much dismember him to get him to stop being all predatory. He just keeps coming, no matter what, because binding cultural imperatives get shit done. Like blowing up a ship just to prevent your prey from escaping. Dude, that ship was worth like so many months of space allowance. Predators don't do that helpful / annoying dialogue thing where they tell you what their plan is or explain how they know shit because their auntie used to take them on hunts or whatever. But we can infer from their behavior that they're capable of following a trail, as they do when they track their prey to Nolan's hideout. They're not worried by bodily injury. Berserker is just irritated that Stan stabs him. They're not loyal to anything other than the aims of their own culture as hunters. Nolan explains that they're highly adaptable. They learn from every mistake or death and use it as an educational tool to evolve their hunting and killing tactics. And crazy Lawrence Fishburne would know, because he's been watching these guys for 10 hunting seasons or 30 of your Earth years. Also, they aren't into easy kills. They intentionally import prey with practice, skills, and critical thinking abilities. Then on top of that, they leave their prey with some serious artillery, like blades, assault rifles, pistols, sniper rifles, grenades, and an M134 minigun that fires at a minimum of 2,000 rounds a minute. Again, the super predators choose for their prey to be this armed. This isn't even the most dangerous game level. This is the superlatively dangerous game. These guys are not even best described as hunters. They're like extreme survivalist stalker-gatherers, but instead of berries, they gather skulls and other body parts. Hunting Wolverine is like a fantasy come true for them. The biggest challenge, the toughest opponent, the snicketiest claws. This isn't going to be easy, and no doubt only one of them will survive. But taking on Quarry this challenging is the stuff that Predator wet dreams are made of.
I love the Predators movie. And I love its director, Antal Nimrod. Not only because he directed the Predators movie, though that's a big part of it, but because I'm pretty sure he's like a Time Lord. Hear me out. First of all, dude's name is Nimrod, which means he shares a name with a mutant-killing robot from the future. This is his given name, mind you. He probably picked it himself. Second, the only things Nimrod ever directed after Predators were a Metallica concert movie called Through the Never, you know, All That Is, Was and Will Be, Universe Much Too Big to See, Time and Space Never Ending, Disturbing Thoughts, Questions Pending, Limitations of Human Understanding.
Miles, you don't need to remind me of Metallica lyrics, sir.
My apologies,
Sorry,
Judge.
Jim. Sorry, Your Honor.
I was merely entering it into the record.
Consider it entered.
And a single episode of Wayward Pines called A Reckoning. So, here's what happened. While taking a trip to Earth in the year 2015, this Time Lord, who called himself the director, came across this thing called the Smash Fiction Podcast. He started listening to the first episode and thought it was great, until the judge somehow gave the victory to the Terminator instead of the Predator. Angry and confused, the director took it upon himself to show these idiot podcast hosts the error of their ways. Traveling back in time to 2010, he made a movie whose title could easily have been, hey, take a look at the predators that hunt the predator for sport, biatch. Then, he made a Metallica movie announcing his intentions to leave Earth again with his TARDIS, which twists and turns through the never if anything does, and finally, left a harbinger of smash fiction in the form of A Reckoning, which was broadcast on the air on July 16th, 2015, mere days before we recorded that first fateful episode. Sadly,
I felt like that was necessary.
Sadly, the existence of predators wasn't enough to alter the course of history and give our original ugly motherfucker the win. But I'd like to think Nimrod knew tonight's match was coming, which is why he named himself Nimrod. It's also why he created a trio of hunter-tracker berserker warriors with all the tactical and technological tools required to separate a certain cigar-chewing, yellow spandex-wearing mutie from his horn-haired head. And then the director chased Rachel Summers back to Earth 616, got merged with Master Mold in the Siege Perilous, and lived happily ever after. Anyway, the man they call Logan, presumably because his real name is James Howlett, and that's fucking stupid, has a chance of surviving the Predators on Pandora the way the Terminator has a chance of getting laid in a Peter Pan costume. His margin of victory in this match is like his old buddy Cyclops, slim and liable to go up in flames at any moment. Let's start with the location of the hunt, a planet so not to be fucked with, they named it Pandora. Thank you so much, James fucking Cameron. More than 18% of the Pandoran atmosphere is made up of carbon dioxide. Humans who set foot on the planet without a specialized breathing apparatus are unconscious in 20 seconds and dead in 4 minutes. Now, Wolverine's mutant healing factor will doubtless be able to account for the CO2, but that atmosphere is still a major factor in this fight. Through countless examples throughout the X-Men line of comics, we know that the healing factor has limits. It can be overloaded and overwhelmed, like when Magneto ripped the adamantium out of Wolverine's body in Fatal Attractions, but even in less drastic circumstances, its effectiveness can vary depending on how many things it has to deal with. The aftermath of Fatal Attractions revealed that the adamantium had been constantly poisoning Wolverine since he had it infused, meaning that his healing factor was never at full strength before that point, because some part of it was always dealing with adamantium poisoning. It was much more effective with the adamantium removed, and it reverted back to its previous less effective state when the adamantium was replaced. Furthermore, Wolverine has been demonstrably susceptible to attacks that involve his breathing. He's been incapacitated by drowning a few times, and although this obviously hasn't happened to him yet, his demise in the Death of Wolverine story comes via suffocation under molten adamantium, though in this case his healing factor had been burnt out by a virus from the microverse, another example of Wolverine's mutant powers biting off more than they can chew. The point is, Logan's healing factor is not an insta-win saving throw versus death, and on Pandora, where it's dealing with both the adamantium poisoning and the CO2 atmosphere, it's not going to be able to help him when he's being literally blown to pieces by a charged up plasmacaster bolt. Pandora's gravity and the xenon content in the air works against Wolverine as well. Humans trying to run or pull off feats of agility on Pandora have a really hard time doing it, as they encounter a great deal of air resistance, but simultaneously, the low gravity makes it hard to find your footing and easy to slip and fall. As the hunted in this match, Wolverine is going to be the one dodging energy blasts and running through the woods, whereas the super predators are going to be the ones calmly stalking their prey, making use of their cloaking devices and long-range weaponry. From a tactical perspective, this situation puts Wolverine at a clear and deadly disadvantage. So Wolverine is really going to have to play the Predator's game in this match, and he's never been all that great at it. The Super Predator's tactics are intelligent and methodical, taking time to observe, setting traps, using voice mimicry, spying, analyzing, and adapting every step of the way. Logan is a ferocious fighter, but when it comes to executing a plan that doesn't involve hacking at the nearest enemy with his claws, he consistently comes up as short as his stature. In the story God Loves Man Kills, Wolverine participates in a danger room sequence where he has to break out of a cage without using his claws to cut the bars. He is completely befuddled by this task, thinking to himself, can't punch my way out, flamin' rules, maybe I can pick the lock with a claw. When that doesn't work, he has to be rescued by Nightcrawler, who tells him to cut the chain holding the cage up. I must be getting old, Logan says. Should have thought of this myself. This came out in 1982! How old and slow is he by now? There are countless other examples of this, as well as examples of Wolverine being vulnerable to massive blasts of energy like those employed by the Super Predators. During the Executioner's Song crossover, he teams up with Cable and Bishop to infiltrate the headquarters of the Mutant Liberation Front. While the three of them fight a literal army of mooks, Bishop says, "You're a warrior born and bred, Wolverine, but apparently not a disciplined soldier. We're approaching this with no strategy, no knowledge of our opponents." When Cable comments that Wolvie is caught up in one of his Berserker rages, Logan responds, "No, I'm not!" and then immediately gets taken out by an energy blast from a D-list villain named Gauntlet. During the Dark Phoenix saga, he leaps to the attack against a Skrull, but is hit in midair from an energy blast from a Kree warrior who I'm not even sure has a name other than weird dude in blue and white spandex with a chest design that looks like a starburst with rings around it or something. And of course, there's Logan's approach to fighting Magneto, a man who can do anything to him, which is to jump at Magneto and wait for the Master of Magnetism to hurl him aside or forcibly retract his claws or rip it all out of his body. Wolverine simply does not have the mental horses to survive 3 super predators. Their tactics will enrage him, flush him out into the open, and easily incapacitate him long enough to take his head.
Well done, Team Predators. Whether or not you claim the trophy of Wolverine's head, you'll definitely have claimed the trophy of my heart.
Oh, well, that's what matters.
Well, not really. The actual match is what matters.
No. I think your heart is good. I like your heart, Dan.
Let's keep it there.
Put it on
I'm gonna mount it on my trophy wall.
Now we're going to move on to rebuttals, starting with Team Wolverine. Cut him up.
Let me tackle this whole Predators adapt and evolve their tactics that Megan Bob brought up. I do want to point out these particular Predators in the Predators movie, I think, are actually a lot less skillful than the original Predator. They have better gear, but they're really showing less actual skill in tactics than the first Predator in the original movie. It's kind of the difference between a big game hunter versus like a fisherman in a stocked lake, which is essentially what the Predator planet is. They abduct the humans and bring them to their planet for convenience.
Predators are nearly always fighting on their own terms, the situations that they create, and that they're still losing. They're not adapting to anything. They're still losing to the same shit over and over and over. I mean, take xenomorphs. Beings that they themselves created have basically run amok and killed tons of predators. I'm not so sure that they're going to be able to track Wolverine in this random environment. I mean, Wolverine, unlike the Predators, is used to not fighting on his terms. He's used to living in different environments, living with wildlife, adapting to his situations.
I completely disagree, Brad. These predators are far superior to the jungle hunter predator variety, of which we see that they have crucified one in the movie The Predators. These are not accountants back home who have a wife and kids and do this on the fly.
They can't even make it to another planet to do their hunting. They have to do it in their backyard.
Their methods do not belie their skill. Their adaptive methods are quite clear over the course of the movie as they observe and change their hunting styles very clearly over the course of the film. They're not going to use close combat against Wolverine. The first moment they see what he can do, say he takes out one of them, say he takes out the Falconer, because the Falconer actually does get into a duel in the movie. Well, the other two are going to look at that, and they're going to be like, oh shit, okay, long-range weapons, he doesn't have those. They have fast aim that the Jungle Hunter Predators don't have. There's no targeting triangles in sight in the Predators movie. They can switch the setting on their plasmacasters to either quick but less damaging single shots or more powerful charge shots or Gatling gun machine gun style. So I think they are far superior.
And they do start out with observation. That's like step one that they start with, because that's why Mombasa starts out and he's like staring at the tree and like, oh no, it's nothing, but it's a predator.
Well, to counter that, the fact that Wolverine doesn't have any long-range weapons, that doesn't really matter. We see Wolverine going against people with long-range weapons all the time. The example I brought up with adamantium men, you literally have guys that are engineered to be like even better than Wolverine, camping out with sniper rifles, tracking equipment, trying to track him through the jungle, and he can't because he just has really good tactics. He knows where to hide. He knows how to hit and run. And he'll be able to do that with the predators and they won't see anything coming. I mean, Jesus, someone was able to sneak up on a predator and freaking stab him in the back when he's staring down like 5 or 6 people.
One of the elements of the film that sort of seems to be fairly consistent is that they're not all that bothered by getting hurt, so they don't mind playing with their food. That seems to be as much a part of the experience for them. I don't know whether they're dead inside and this is like what gets them off or what. But they do that, and they seem to not care.
Whereas the jungle hunters get hurt and have to go off and run and get their med kit and cry like little babies, as was pointed out by somebody a long time ago. The super predators get hurt, and they just totally shrug it off. And as far as Wolverine against long-range assailants goes, I think that a lot of what's pulling him through that is his sheer physical abilities and instincts as opposed to his tactics. And that's not going to work nearly as well on Pandora as it is on Earth.
There was another comment that was mentioned that Wolverine doesn't have good tactics. Miles, you mentioned it earlier, and you've just kind of doubled down on it. But Wolverine has training as a soldier, a CIA operative, a samurai, a spy, and a member of the X-Men. He has a ton of training. he's going to be able to rely on any of that. And above all, he's at his best when he's in a natural environment, when he is able to put his instincts in line with his training. So this is the perfect situation for him.
The Predators have an honor code. Yay.
These ones do not. That is very clear again in the movie. And as far as that goes, Brad, I mean, it's great that he has that training. I don't know why
so they
he
have
doesn't.
Nothing.
I don't.
Don't talk about my ugly children that way.
If he has that training, that's great. But if that's the case, he only occasionally uses it. Because the number of times he just runs up to people like Magneto going, is like ridiculous.
All right, that's going to do it for the Wolverine side of the rebuttals round. So now we are switching over to Team Predators. You've got them in your triangular sights.
Well, I did draw that triangle around them. So there were two things that you brought up that I was like kind of floored by. One was that you suggested that he could fly, and I wasn't sure that I do not know that you understand how magnets work.
No, I looked it up.
Like,
I looked it up.
Okay.
Adamantium is ferromagnetic. If there's a charge,
I believe you. That's not the same thing as flying. What that is hovering, and he will be unable to control where he moves because he will have nothing to push off of unless he sort of swims through the air using vines. Like, he can't. If you have nothing you're holding on to, you can't move. And also, how powerful is it? How far off the surface is he?
As far as he wants to be.
That's not how magnetism works. There's a set level of it in him.
Do you even science, bro?
Excuse me, but he has 6 blades that can come out of his hands, like, you know.
No, that's him controlling where he's
the momentum
located,
of the blades coming out of his hands?
Like Newtonian laws that do apply. The other thing I wanted to say was that you said that his super senses were going to do him some real favors on Pandora. So he has never been on this planet before and everything is bonkers and he has super senses. That is like taking a wad of acid and going to Toys R Us. He's going to be over fucking whelmed. How is he going to parse any of it?
And there are multiple instances of the comics in which that's been used against him. Like every time he fights the Hulk, when the Hulk claps his hand together to make Wolverine throw his hands over his ears.
And that's a single sound, not a million new sounds, smells, sights,
and smells,
coming into him.
Nothing can face him because his whole life is new shit every day. The percentage of comics that start with Wolverine like waking up in a vat in an unfamiliar environment is just mind-boggling. It's just like normal routine. Wolverine just wakes up on an experiment table and he busts out and he kills everyone.
But this is a whole new biome, Brad.
And that's what we've been trying to say, adapting to different environments. Plus, I mean, being on the surface of Pandora, you see it when Jake Sully is in the friggin' Avatar body. Like, the most he has to concentrate is just putting his legs one in front of the other because he's in a new body. I mean, if a human can process everything, I mean, remember, he's still connected to the brain. It's not like, oh, if it goes through the ear of the Avatar body, then, you know, the Na'vi body, he'll be fine. No, it's still connected directly to his mind. He's still having to process all of that, okay? The ear's just the organ.
Right, but he doesn't have enhanced senses.
But Wolverine is going to be able to separate all that because, as we've said, he's always in different environments. If he doesn't separate those things, he dies, and he doesn't die.
Well, he does, but I'm glad you mentioned the Na'vi again because I wanted to bring that up. You mentioned Jake Sully. Oh my god, I hate that movie. You mentioned the Na'vi again, and you talked about how Wolverine was going to somehow hide amongst the animals, the massive animals there on the planet, and the Predators would somehow be distracted because they're definitely not there specifically to hunt Wolverine. They didn't definitely bring him there to hunt him. But the thing about that is, if that is the case, then eventually Wolverine's gonna meet the Na'vi. I don't know if y'all know what happens when Wolverine is in like a foreign place and meets some new people, the indigenous people who live there. But what happens is he makes friends with them. He usually hooks up with one of the ladies, leaving her like pregnant, as we find out 20 years later. And then they all fucking die. So the thing about the Predator tactics is that in addition to everything I mentioned before, they are very into crucifying your friends and, I don't know, putting you into some kind of berserker rage by killing the 10-foot-tall blue girl you were having sex with last night. It's yet another weakness of Wolverine's that can be brought to bear by the Predators in terms of drawing him out, using the voice mimicry, and all the different ways that they can use their tactics to make him less cautious, more angry, and therefore an easier target.
Wolverine
what
will...
you just described is the plot of Avatar. You guys are like the humans coming in your mech suits. And Wolverine is like Jake Sulu coming in and like making friends with everybody and taking over.
I mean, but for Wolverine, that's been terrible.
What a match here on Pandora today. Try as he might, Wolverine can't seem to shake the 3 alien hunters. But try as they might, they just can't seem to take this guy out. The 4 play a game of cat and cat and cat and a mouse who may actually just be another cat. Before all of them unexpectedly fall into a vast and wild river, which speeds them swiftly to a different part of the planet entirely. Well, if we have a sudden and dramatic change of scenery, that can only mean that this is the lightning round.
Yeah! Motherfuckers.
Get your healing factors ready.
Thank you for basically adequately portraying what Wolverine's doing right now.
Many miles downstream, Wolverine finally pulls himself out of the rapids. Climbing to his feet, he looks around and finds a number of low wooden buildings which have been constructed nearby. Gathered outside and looking at him with big round eyes are a few dozen members of the blue-skinned humanoid natives of Pandora. Given their size and proportions, Logan judges them to be children, all dressed in identical blue t-shirts with a stylized font reading, Camp Omaticaya. Meanwhile, across the river, the 3 predators have similarly washed up on the shores of a different camp full of young members of the Na'vi race, though these wear orange shirts, proudly proclaiming themselves members of Camp Tipani. The 2 groups of young Na'vi swarm over the newcomers, regarding them with instant adulation. Wolverine and the predators share a knowing glance across the wide river between them. Both of their respective codes of conduct prohibit endangering children, so neither side is able to make a move against the other. And yet, both sides still want to prove their superiority over the other. It seems that they'll have to continue their fight using the tools in front of them. A summer camp full of kids. Advocates, your characters have been put in charge of an alien summer camp. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, they will need to whip their charges into shape, teaching them the valuable skills of hiking, canoeing, making pictures from uncooked elbow macaroni, and so many more. At the end of the summer, the 2 rival camps will meet head-to-head in the annual Valley of Moara Games, the ultimate impartial test of summer camp-related skill. There will be tug-of-war. There will be games of capture the flag. There will be knot-tying contests. And there will be inter-camp pranks. Only one side can emerge vicariously victorious this day. Why will it be your side? Team Wolverine went first in the main round, so Team Predators will start us off in the lightning round.
I think that really what this comes down to is the fundamental difference in mindset between Wolverine and the Predators. The Predators are going to run the summer camp as if these are a group of children in their culture. So it's going to be deeply steeped in summer camp rituals and traditions. I mean, that's a huge part of summer camp. You sing around the campfire. You have all these things that you do before going out on hikes and stuff. You sing various songs together. There's a lot of singing, and the Predators with their voice mimicry can really help out with that. But the Predators are a community first and foremost. They understand the idea of community. They understand the idea of bringing a group together for a common goal, and they're going to instill those values in these young Na'vi children. Now, Wolverine is a loner, kind of a dick. He does teach, like, he's the headmaster of the Jean Grey School, but he doesn't really teach there. He just, like, he was the one who funded it and, like, got the various X-Men together so they can be the teachers, and he doesn't have to do any work. But really, he just wanted the building upon which he could put Jean Grey's name. What's gonna happen here is what invariably happens with Wolverine, which is he's gonna pick one of the pupils and, like, lavish her probably in attention and just, like, be her one-on-one mentor this entire time, and that will build resentment within the rest of the campers, and then, like, randomly he'll switch off and pick another one, and then that first one will feel betrayed. It's gonna be a bad scene. Wolverine does not know how to do this. He can't compete with the Predator's community mindset.
There is actually one of the theories of the film is that Berserker is sort of the grown-up of the group, and he is taking his 2 young charges out to kind of learn the ropes of hunting. So, he is very much going to be the father figure to this whole thing. The kids are going to love the personalization of the biomask. I'm sure they are all going to want some sort of bone jewelry by the end of this. Miles was right about the community thing, but I think there's also like a real respect for tradition and how things are done. So I think there's going to be a lot, I'm going to say pretty much mandatory pot holder making. I don't.
Yeah.
Like, that will be enforced, and there will be a certain amount of, like, if you do not make a certain amount of pot holders, you have to go and, like, I don't know, catch fish or whatever. But then they're also going to probably teach the kids how to catch fish with their bare hands anyway, because, you know, how can they resist those little Navi faces?
Well, because the kids are going to be really motivated for hunting, because the predators are going to teach them all about, like, trophy catching. So what's going to happen is, you know, make your macaroni pictures as close to your prey as possible, and then shoot it in the archery contest.
Yeah, and then, like, get closer into its mindset and really sort of observe your macaroni art and think about it. I also
truly try to understand the macaroni.
Yeah, really embrace it. They're also going to do a talent show. Obviously, they're going to do
naturally, yeah,
because the voice mimicry really lends itself to that. Also, the kind of decorative aspect. They really want to see the kids blossom. That's the whole point of the hunting, is to see somebody become their truest self. And I think watching children do a pretty rough version of a Britney Spears song is how we get there.
As far as pranks are concerned, I think that, you know, there's going to be a lot of, like, hunting down your prey on the planet, taking a grizzly trophy from it, activating your cloaking device and sneaking across the river and leaving it, like, under one of the other kids' pillows, that kind of thing. All very lighthearted and fun.
But it's going to be, like, little kid stuff. So they're going to take the butt, and they're just going to, like, take the decapitated butt and leave it under a pillow, and they're going to be like, I left you a bloody butt under your pillow.
The kids are gonna, like, wake up with their hands in, like, a warm pool of blood.
So funny.
Classic.
It's so good. Anyway, that's what it's gonna be.
I mean, best campfires. The best campfires.
Oh, such good. What are we gonna call our little campers?
That's a good question.
Predlets?
I was gonna say the Lil Predators Adventure Camp.
That's really cute. I was going to call it Death Snuggles, but I like those are better.
Oh, no, I like Death Snuggles.
Okay.
I'm just imagining all of the little Na'vi kids creating, like, their own biomasks out of, like, paper plates, basically, and, like, decorating it with all sorts of crap.
Yeah. And, like, decorated in a way that speaks to you. This is your biomask.
All right. Well, we've made some friends for life here over at Camp Death Snuggles? Is that what we
Death Snuggles. Yes.
Great. All right, over to the other side of the river. Team Wolverine, let's hear your madness.
Well, I think definitely, like, Death Snuggles is kind of like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like the nerd camp, right? Because
it's a real like snobs versus slobs situation here.
It's all like arts and crafts and like making death masks and stuff. Wolverine's like, the kids always really respond to Wolverine because he's like laissez-faire. He's just like, let them grow up and do what they want to do. For some reason, they just really respond to that. So they're going to really appreciate his camp. And it's just going to be the no bullshit zone where they finally have an adult who won't like lie to them and sugarcoat everything and who will actually like talk to them like a human being. And they're going to really respond to that kind of mentality of the camp. And he's just going to tell like the best ghost stories and adventure stories over the fire while roasting 3 marshmallows at once.
So yeah, that's the first phase of the camp. But then after Wolverine's cooking or maybe distillation of local flora fauna class, Wolverine's going to be nice and drunk. And that's where phase 2 of the camp begins at Camp Omayayuda Best, where you can be the good guy too. And Wolverine takes a little bit of a different approach. First, kids start off in class number 1, which is swimming and why you should avoid it, which transitions into bridge building 101. And a bridge will be built to Camp Death Snuggles. And there's other variety of classes that are so much fun called Show Me Your Warface class in order to diffuse tense situations. There's a bubblegum blowing contest every year where he trains the kids to blow the best of bubbles. He has bags of bullets that he's dug out of his own body and offered to the children to make necklaces. And then the biggest event is called Kid Fight Club. But because we can't fight with the kids, actually how you win is you have to give as many hugs as possible. And since the bridge will be completed...
Fight hug.
Yeah, since the bridge will be completed from Bridge Building 101, whichever kid can give the most hugs to any other Na'vi from Camp Death Snuggles wins. So it's very competitive. And finally, if the kids wish, there's also a couple fashion classes where leather, tank tops, designer denim, and design your own belt buckles are extremely in. And there's a fashion contest at the end of the year. So, and then eventually it goes back into phase 1 because he's run out of liquor. So. Or drugs.
You guys have done a truly amazing job defending your respective sides this evening. So much so that I can't possibly decide who would win. So, instead of judging you based on the quality of your arguments or whatever, I'm going to go with a different method. A couple of months back, I had a one-night stand with a mutant, and then a few days later, I had another one-night stand with an alien. And now, guess what? I'm pregnant. So, I'm going to go get a test done to see if I'm carrying a baby mutant or a baby alien.
You might want to check your chest, okay?
And I'll be back momentarily to let you know who has won, and by extension, whether I should be fearing for my life.
What the fuck just happened?
Oh my gosh, I love the summer camp though. Like now I'm really attached to the idea of the predators being like, oh, well, we weren't into this, but now we're responsible adults and we need to take care of these children.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the predators suddenly being very nurturing to these like little knobby kids.
I mean, how can you resist those little faces? And also, they're going to be the same size as them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Still huge. So they're like, oh, they're adorable.
You think they're going to try the Sahalo? Are they going to make Sahalo? Is there going to be a class for that?
Yeah, probably.
How does that work with predator dreadlocks?
I don't know.
Oh, is
like,
Sahalo the sex? I forget.
Yeah,
the hair fucking.
They maybe have to get some kind of like...
These are kids, remember, please.
I know. I was like, why did you bring this up, Liz? I didn't do this. You did.
They need proper education.
Oh,
Yeah.
so like a safe sex class.
Yeah.
Just two predators demonstrating with a length of rope.
Like it's a banana and a condom. Oh my god.
I mean, is it really? I don't know if it's strictly sex, though. Is Sahalo strictly
Well, if
sex?
they do it with their horses, too.
Yeah, that's kind of... Okay, yeah.
Don't judge!
Kids, we need consent. We need Sahalo consent.
So, Liz, I gotta say, I was terrified coming into this match, knowing that you were going to be defending Wolverine. And you did not disappoint in the ferocity of your arguments.
I had to get so much out. I was telling Brad that I was like, oh, you know, I love Wolverine, but like I fucking hate spandex Wolverine. I hate any early X-Men or any early Wolverine. I only like later stuff.
See, I'm kind of the opposite. I love the early X-Men, and I'm really, really not into the later stuff.
I may not have read the right stuff yet, but yeah, I love like the gritty 2000s Wolverine runs. Those are my favorite.
I'll tell you what I love is Predators.
I was really surprised. I did not like the first two Predator movies, but the Predators was
not
good.
bad. I saw
Hands
that
down the
theaters.
best Predator movie ever.
That I read the script for the deleted scenes. Oh my god, I'm so sad they were deleted. Like those scenes were deleted. There was a lot more stuff with Danny Trejo.
Oh, really?
yeah?
Yes,
I didn't know that.
He was taken
died
out
as
early.
released.
Like it was, there just wasn't enough of him.
No, there was one where like Topher Grace has to like pee, and he's like, "Oh, I have to pee," and then somebody's like, "Oh, men don't pee, men piss," and then he turns to Danny Trejo. What do you do? And he says, I unleash. Shit, you could have had Danny Trejo saying that.
Oh,
That's
so
when you
bad.
go watch Machete.
Predators is the only action movie where Adrian Brody will be the star.
Oh
He
my
was,
god.
so good. I was really impressed.
I know.
Why do
I
you
think
think
it's my
he did
favorite
it?
Adrian Brody movie.
How do you think he ended up getting that role? Like, what happened?
I don't know. Like,
I
that's so
seriously
somebody
think
saw
they
the
couldn't find
pianist?
anybody else. I think
No
they went through
way.
like a
Do you
ton
really
of people.
think that it was that?
I genuinely, it's just such a different type of action hero than you've seen before.
I also found out that Danny Glover was originally supposed to play the Lawrence Fishburne role. which is interesting.
Oh, yeah, that is weird.
I mean,
That
I'm
was
glad
a
it's
great
Lawrence Fishburne
role.
now.
I love that role.
Oh god, he just grabbed all the scenery, shoved it in his mouth, and chewed on it, just like angrily, and I loved it so much. Actually, there was talk of a prequel with him. Which,
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I would watch the fuck out of that.
Oh yeah.
they were going to make a Predators 2, but now they're making The Predator, whatever
Oh,
that is.
boo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we all
That's gonna
love
be
reboots.
Oh god.
It's a matter of historical record that the hardest match for me to judge so far has been Daenerys versus Mordor. And that still remains the case. But I'm pretty sure this one is going to slot in at at least number 3, if not number 2. Because this was really, really hard for me to figure out. First of all, I have to get this out of the way. I have never seen Liz deliver a more passionate argument.
Yeah.
Because I know you love Wolverine. And I have never seen Miles deliver a more passionate argument because I know you hate Wolverine.
Oh, God.
It's true, I do.
So this was really the two of you just like firing on all cylinders, which is to take nothing at all away from Bob and Brad, because you guys, as always, were wonderful, but like I could tell these guys were really going Super Saiyan for this episode.
I was writing my argument and I was like, wow, the first thing I wrote was something making fun of his name. It's gonna be that kind of night.
First things first. I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by the amount to which both sides really use the environment in really creative ways that I was not expecting at all. I figured you would give it a few sort of throwaway predictable lines about how the environment favored your side, but like the whole magnetic fields thing and talking about how there's like a plethora of all these different senses that would overwhelm his senses, and of course like talking about the atmosphere, all that stuff was really smart and really gave me a lot to think about on top of the match, which is in and of itself really difficult to suss out. What it came down to essentially was this. I loved the sort of meta-ness of what Team Predators was talking about when they were saying that like, this is very much a Wolverine type story where like, you know, he goes to this alien planet, he falls in with this alien civilization, he bangs some alien woman, and then like the enemies find him and kill everyone he loves. And then like he goes into a Berserker rage. I thought that was really brilliant and really funny. The thing about those stories, as soon as the villains do that to him, he straight up murders them. And so I think Wolverine wins this one.
Okay, everyone, a moment of silence for the only match I will ever quote specific issues of comic book characters.
I know,
Thank you.
dude.
Good night! Good fucking night!
I was like, who is this woman?
Well, you guys were awesome.
I love all of you.
And thank you so much for the match. Thanks, Brad, for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you.
The floating Wolverine. I just like that. God, I love it.
Oh, man.
That might be the single most 90s X-Men animated series thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, well, we know
he
what the
can fly because magnet.
we know what the artwork for this episode is for sure. For sure.
I'm the best at what I do. And what I do is awkwardly lurk in the background until it's time to emerge and give thanks with horribly faked confidence. Hi, guys!
You know, you could have made a joke about a cloaking device.
Thank you to the Politipop Podcast, Cosplay Fiend, Sharon Holden, Paladin Today, Neil Butler, Florian, Christine Robinson, James Weaver, Tacoma Timber, and Rafael Medina for reblogging our episodes and chatting about us. Also, just wanted to mention Paladin Today, longtime fan Paladin Today, mentioned that we're one of his 3 favorite podcasts. So
Very flattering.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for sticking with us. Also, big thank you to Little Kipapeo and also Sky ERTL Ertl? Sandwich Surplus, you know who you are, for drawing Extraordinary League things for us.
Oh yeah, that art was so good. I want to specifically also say thank you to everyone who's been talking about their reactions to the latest Extraordinary League episodes. I took over as producer on those, and I've been, you know, screwing around with the sound and the music and stuff, and people have been real good about, like, telling me what they like and don't like about it, and obviously the response to Miles coming back as Archer and Meg and Bob coming on as Luna have all been real positive. So thanks, guys, for all of your feedback and all of your support. It really means a lot to us. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we'll be releasing episode 16 of Extraordinary League, and join us the week after that for our next match, Zoe Washburn from Firefly versus Kara Starbuck Thrace from Battlestar Galactica. Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Holden, with logo designed by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
He was supposed to be teaching zero... Oh, that is not even close to a Southern accent. Give me a sec.
I don't know what I like more. what's happening right now, or the fact that you made this bed entirely on your own?
Yep, I have no one to blame but myself here.
It's like accent hopscotch.
Except I made the squares like 20 feet apart.
Yeah, it's like an exercise at the NFL Combine where you're running from cone to cone as fast as you can, changing direction, but with accents.
Exactly that.
In the game of Sentinels of the Multiverse, there are 3
Wow, okay, go on.
I mean, I was interested when you started talking about Sentinels, but then you really turned it up.
I didn't realize Mystique was in that game. Continue.
Get to the chopper!
Oh!
By the way,
I'm
Liz,
Arnold.
thank you so much for the hair fucking comment.
You were my inspiration for that.
I couldn't find a way to work it in, and I was like, oh, it's so sad now. But you really filled my heart with joy. Thank you
Liz
so
found
much.
a way.
Liz, can you do Arnold talking about hair fucking?
Okay, hold on.
The predators, they have the hair for hair fucking.
They put it in
The
one.
hands are perfect.
Ah!